So again, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to some, good evening to others. It's a pleasure for us from the organizing committee of the next 13th DOHaD World Congress to welcome all of you to this section, this online session that intends to inaugurate our countdown and website for the next World Congress, September 2025. On behalf of myself, Dr. Alicia Mota, and Dr. Alejandro Dinnerstein, the three co-presidents for this Congress, we welcome all of you. And now I'd like to give the word to Dr. Alicia Mota, who will give a nice salutation to the Latin American members of the DOHaD community. Please, Alicia, go ahead.
Hola a todas y a todos. Como parte del comité organizador del 13º Congreso Mundial de DOHaD, que va a realizarse aquí en Buenos Aires, tengo el agrado y con la premisa de un puente hacia una sola salud. Se llevará a cabo este congreso del 7 al 10 de septiembre del año próximo en Buenos Aires, Argentina. Bueno, los esperamos.
Thank you, Alicia. So together with us, we have also Dr. Lucila Poston, the president of DOHaD International Society. We also who will also say a few words to you as well. Please, Lucila, thank you so much for being with us in this evening.
Not at all, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak now. And all I can say really is, as president of the International Society, I congratulate Marcos and Alicia and Christiane and the team for getting together such a wonderful program for next year, which is September the 7th, so it's not very far away. This is going to be a very exciting meeting for many aspects, because I think DOHaD as a discipline in the world has never been more important. We are beset by problems which influence the health of the baby all the way through from preconception, gamete level to embryo to fetus to young child particularly. And I'm talking about the many sad areas of conflict in the world, but also the fact that the inequalities are worse perhaps than they've ever been in many countries. But also we are in a position where we've got some fantastic information about the science of DOHaD and how we can apply that to these problems, climate change as well, internationally. So as academics and as health professionals and as nutritionists in this field, we can all bring something incredibly important to the developmental origins of health and disease. I think we're uniquely positioned as a society to be advocates of DOHaD, to be doing really good work with government, with spreading the word and bringing the whole international health community into the DOHaD arena. It's so important. I think we have so many tools at our disposal now. We have fantastic biology, all the metabolomics and the omics. We have data linkage. We have animal models, which are extremely good. And we have extraordinarily good observational and interventional studies going on in the world at the moment, which are all based on DOHaD. I think I've just been writing a lecture yesterday for a United Kingdom meeting. And I think it's true to say that governments nationally are incredibly engaged in life course now, the life course of health, far more so than they perhaps were even in Vancouver a couple of years ago. So if you look on the internet about life course and the early origins of disease and the fact that we ought to concentrate on early life health, I think governments at least are using the right words now. They might not be necessarily implementing all of the best strategies to improve the health of mothers and children and young people, but I think they know we are very much on the political agenda in many countries across the world. And so therefore this meeting comes at an incredibly important time, a time when we can contribute to the national work that's going on in this field. So a great place to go. I've never been to Buenos Aires. I'm looking forward to it myself personally very much in attending. The plan for the meeting is very well advanced and it sounds fantastic. The program is going to have something for everybody, including some work on animals, One Health, very important subject area. Now we're all thinking that we need to think about a holistic approach or a syndemic approach to developmental origins of health and disease, and that includes the animal kingdom, agriculture, climate change, many different factors. The complexity of it is never more clear. So I think we are going to be in for a treat at your meeting, and we shall all be coming with lots of new ideas to discuss and to network with each other. And particularly, I think, for young people to be able to meet one another, meet the experts, and become engaged in this field for what we hope will be a lifelong career, which is incredibly important, of course, that we engage everybody who is coming into our field as well as those who are engaged with it. South America couldn't be a better place to actually underpin all of what we're doing, all the way through from nutritional problems and fantastic nutritional work that's going on in South America and Brazil and Chile and Argentina. Very strong nutritional foundation, and also a very strong records in health are extremely good in South America, and the opportunity for using traditional electronic health records and the databases is fantastic in order to be able to address the many problems that we have in lifelong health. So all I can say is come along, everybody. Come to what is going to be a pivotal meeting in this arena. Enjoy coming to South America. Enjoy coming to Buenos Aires. And it's a place I know a lot of people would like to see, and we should look forward very much to welcoming you all there. Thank you very much, all of the team, and for all the work. You've no idea, everybody, all the work that these guys as a team have been putting into this meeting. It's not an easy time to put meetings together. It's expensive and everything else, but they're all doing a great job. So thank you very much indeed. And good luck with it, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucila. Thank you so much for your kind words. And of course, for burning the lights on how important this meeting is going to be and how actual indeed and how current those talks are. So again, thank you so much for being with us. So before we start with the two short presentations we have for this evening, I'd like to acknowledge our partners and supporters. Erika, please, can you advance for the next slide, please? So I just to acknowledge that this Congress is a scientific organization of DOHaD International Society and Latin American DOHaD Regional Society. We have as scientific partners the Nutrition Society in the UK and the Latin American Federation of Perinatal Medicine, FLAM, so far. As scientific supporters, we have the Argentinian Association of Public Health, the Argentinian Society of Nutrition, the Inter-American Society of Cardiology, and the Obstetric and Gynecology Society of Buenos Aires. As institutional supporters, we have the National Council for Scientific and Technical Investigations, the CONCET in Argentina, the National Academy of Sciences in Argentina, the School of Medicine of the University of Buenos Aires, UBA, the Ministry of Tourism and Sports in Argentina, the Touristic Bureau of the Autonomous City of Buenos Aires and the Congress of the Autonomous City of Buenos Aires as well. We are happy to say that we also have an official airline company, which is Aerolíneas Argentinas, which have extended a 15% discount for all tickets coming to Buenos Aires during the Congress time, in association with the whole Sky team. So all the companies inside the Sky team networks he have the same 15% discount on the flight ticket. So now it's my pleasure to give the word to Dr. Christian Mate, our president in the Latin American DOHaD Regional Society. We will give some words and then start with the talks for this evening. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to introducing the launch of our next World Congress in DOHaD. And it's a pleasure to start with the presentations. First, we'll have the presentation of Alicia. Alicia is one of the co-presidents. You already know her, and she will present our first speaker today. Please, Alicia.
Evangelina Capobianco, PhD, is an associate researcher at CONICET, working in the Laboratory of Reproduction and Metabolism at the Center for Pharmacological and Botanical Studies, University of Buenos Aires, Argentina. She also served as a part-time professor in the Faculty of Biology at the Teacher Training Institute. Her early research focused on fetoplacental alterations resulting from maternal diabetes and intergenerational transmission of diabetes-related disorders. Currently, her primary research interests lie in investigate the paternal programming of metabolic disease in the fetus, placental, and offsprings in male diabetes rats using two different models of diabetes.
Means paternal origins of health and disease. And as you can imagine, it arises. Good afternoon, my name is Evangelina Capobianco, and I'm glad to share with you the launch of the 13th World DOHaD Congress that will be held here in Argentina. I want to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to share this webinar that I entitled the DOHaD Paradigm, and in which we are going to explore the role of the placenta in paternal programming. Okay, DOHaD means paternal origins of health and disease, and as you can imagine, it arises from the most known term DOHaD, in which all of the studies have concentrated on maternal environment. However, DOHaD is a relatively new concept that in the last 2 decades, several studies have started to research and have demonstrated that impairments in paternal health, such as diabetes or obesity, and several paternal lifestyles, such as the kind of nutrition, the consumption of alcohol or smoking, and also paternal exposure to adverse environments can affect the developing male germ cells, leading to offspring's future health. There is a study that have reviewed epigenetic, sociological, and historical research that has highlighted that fathers' health-related behaviors and paternal lifestyles influence during the initial 1,000 days. And it is important, and it's very important to understand the role of the father to take in account the different social and historical contexts. They conclude that an interdisciplinary approach to this new paradigm is needed to interpret and critically understand paternal lifestyles and their influences on the offspring health. However, as I am a biologist, today we are going to explore and to talk about the paternal effects on the offspring. The biological effects of the fathers on the offspring. Okay, there is a very notorious difference between DOHaD and POHaD, and is the fact that there is no, regarding to POHaD, there is no direct interaction between the progenitor and the offspring until birth. However, several researchers have described a great range of potential epigenetic signals that are transmitted by sperm and seminal fluid that contain the paternal environmental messages transmitted to their offspring. As you know, these are chromatin modifications, no coding RNAs, and cytosine methylation. But also there is a more complex issue and that is the crosstalk between them. So how these paternally inherited factors influence offspring development and modify lifelong health is what we are looking for. In this diagram that came from Lucas and Watkins' paper, shows the key events of epigenetic remodeling during embryonic development and sperm maturation. And both this paper and the other authors like Sowry and have described that there are 4 phases during where paternally epigenetic marks are retained, it could be retained, and so current research is attempting to understand which epigenetic marks derived from sperm are retained post-fertilization and how can they affect offspring development. On the other hand, studies examining intrauterine maternal stressors have described alterations in placental development, growth, and function, which correlate with well-described influences on infant health and adult onset of disease. This highlights the power of the placenta on programming offspring health. Several studies have demonstrated that paternal stressors have an impact on placental growth and architecture, leads to a variety of thickness and histological placental phenotype, and also leads to the dysregulation of imprinting gene expression. All of these features lead to placental dysfunction. However, the underlying factors responsible of these changes in development are still unclear. There are common placental phenotypes shared between models examining preconception, male condition, and intrauterine stressors, but the direction of change frequently differs between maternal and paternal exposures. So it's our interest to identify similarities in placental phenotypes across experimental animal models, and for example, regarding morphometry, cell populations, and affected physiological pathways, to find paternal strategies that prevent the programming of diseases in offspring. So what we know about the influences of preconceptional male health and exposure history in placental growth and patterning. Okay, such as several studies investigated intergenerational effect of paternal stressors have found differences in placental phenotypes, we have to pay attention and to take into account that the effects depend on the experimental model, the type of insult, the severity of the insult, and the duration of it. In this review, of Batzal and Golding, they have described the impacts of preconception paternal exposure on offspring placentation. And they reviewed several works of different placental paternal exposures. And they found differences in phenotypes and in different histological features, and also the expression of different placental imprinted genes. And this is something that it's interesting that, for example, these two works from Morgan and Watkins, they studied a low protein diet in mice, and they found that the placental weights were decreased. However, when we observe histological features, they found contrary responses regarding the thickness of the junctional zone. They found a decreased junctional zone, and this other work found that it was increased. So we have to pay attention of the different kind of insults and the duration and well, everything that I said before. Okay, in our laboratory, we study intergenerational transmission of metabolic anomalies in two models of paternal diabetes. We have a model of type 2 diabetes that is obtained by intrauterine programming, because our first studies were made on maternal diabetes. We found that maternal diabetes leads to type 2 diabetes in the offspring. And so we used this F1 male offspring to study the phenotypes of the fetus and placentas of the next generation. We have another model of diabetes that was chemically induced by using streptozotocin, and in this case, we obtained diabetic male rats that were crossed with healthy females, and then we studied the next generation. In this case, we studied the F1 generation. So to start with the first model that we developed, we studied the model of type 2 diabetes, in which we injected 2-day-old female neonates with the streptozotocin, that is a drug that destroys beta cells. So then we obtain the diabetic mothers, that is a type 1 of diabetes. And when we mated these female rats with control males, we obtain this model of type 2 diabetes obtained by intrauterine programming, because this F1 generation was not exposed to streptozotocin. And then when we mated these males with healthy females, we studied the F2 generation. We studied the fetus and the placenta on day 21 of gestation. In these graphs, we can see the metabolic determinations in paternal plasma, and we observed that these males were hyperglycemic, and they have hypertriglyceridemia and hypercholesterolemia. When we study the fetal plasma, we observed that triglyceridemia and cholesterolemia were increased in these fetuses. Then we studied fetal weight, and we observed that it was increased in the group of diabetic males, the offspring of diabetic males. And when we study placental weight, we found no differences between groups. Then we studied lipid levels in placentas from, and in this case, we studied fetuses and placentas for both sexes, and we found similar results for both. Then we studied lipid levels in placentas from male and female F2 fetuses, and we observed that there was an increase in triglycerides, cholesterols, and free fatty acids in placentas from male fetuses. However, placentas from female fetuses, the levels of these lipids evaluated were similar to controls. Okay, in our laboratory, we have been studying peroxisome proliferator activated receptors for many years, and these are nuclear receptors that are activated by ligands of lipid nature, such as eicosanoids, long-chain polyunsaturated fatty acids, and monounsaturated fatty acids. When these agonists bind to PPAR receptors, there is a release of there is a release of corepressors, and there is a binding of coactivators, and PPARs heterodimerize with the retinoic X receptor that all of the complex binds to PPAR responsive element in the promoter of genes that regulate metabolic of proteins and enzymes that regulate metabolic homeostasis, cellular differentiation, and the regulation of anti-inflammatory and antioxidant processes. So as I said, in our laboratory, have found that maternal diabetes leads to alterations in PPAR gene and protein expression and PPAR function in different stages of embryonic and fetal development, and also in the development of placenta. When we study the expression of these PPARs and function of PPARs in the offspring of diabetic mothers, we found that they were altered in pancreas, heart, and kidney. So we studied the expression of PPARs in the placentas from male fetuses that were the ones that have increased levels of lipids. So we found that the expression of PPAR alpha was increased, and also the expression of PGC1 alpha, that is a PPAR, a cofactor of PPARs, and a coactivator. And then we studied the expression of lipid transport enzymes, and we found that there was an increase of FATP1, LipG, LPL, and CD36 in placentas from male fetuses that came from the diabetic group. Okay, the other model of paternal diabetes is a model of type 1 diabetes. In this model, we injected 2-day-old male neonates with streptozotocin, and when this, and at the age of 3 months, in adulthood, we mated these males with healthy females, and we study the fetus and the placenta on day 21 of gestation. But here we have to stop and think, what about the mother? As we know that placenta is involved also in the generation and the production of hormones that can impact on the mother metabolic health, we ask what happened. Can placenta and fetal metabolic dysfunction affect maternal metabolism? So in this case, we studied glycemia and triglyceridemia, and we found that the females mated with diabetic males, these values were similar to controls. Then we study metabolic parameters on the fathers, and we found that they also have increased in glycemia, cholesterolemia, and triglyceridemia. And when we study fetal plasma, we observed that there was an increase in triglyceridemia and on the fetus, in the plasma of fetus, female and male fetuses. when we studied fetal weight and placental weight, we found that there were no differences between groups. However, what about placental lipid metabolism? We didn't have a morphological phenotype, but lipids could be altered. And this was what we found. These are the lipid levels in placentas from female and male fetuses. First of all, we study female fetuses and we observe that phospholipids, cholesterol, triglycerides, and cholesterol esters were decreased in the placentas for female fetuses. But contrarily, when we study the lipid levels in placentas from male fetuses, we found that all of these lipids were increased. So then we study the expression of enzymes of lipid metabolism in placentas from male and female fetuses. And we observed that LipG expression was decreased in placentas from females, and FAS, fatty acid synthase, LipG, and fatty acid translocase were increased in placentas from male fetuses. Then we studied the lipid levels in the liver of fetuses, and we found that there was an increase in free fatty acids in placentas from, in liver from female fetuses, and there was an increase in phospholipids in the fetal liver of males. And this, the last result is the most interesting, I think, because we observe that there is an increase in the levels of triglycerides, both in fetal liver from both female and male fetuses. I'm sorry for my English. Okay, so which are the conclusions of our models of paternal diabetes? We can say that despite the presence or absence of a fetal and placental morphological phenotype, these two models of paternal diabetes program sex-dependent alterations in lipid metabolism in both placenta and fetal liver. And some take-home messages are that placenta is a great predictor of a great predictor in the paternal programming. Placenta offers a good reading of impaired developmental programming. And to truly understand the developmental origins of disease, there is a need of examining the combined experiences of both parents. However, there is still a long road ahead. Okay, this is the people of our lab. Dr. Alicia Hauerbaum is the director of the lab, and Dr. Diana Fornes is the one that started with all of this new line of research in our laboratory that is continued by Irune Pirrone nowadays with her PhD. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
So thank you very much, Dr. Evangelina Capobianco. And now I will present our second speaker before the question and answers. So Dr. Maria Teresa Solis Soto is a medical doctor with training in public health, epidemiology, and medical research international health. She has deepened in different public health issues, focusing on the epidemiology of chronic disease and studies on health and work conditions in urban and rural areas of Latin America. She has developed projects with a quantitative and qualitative approach, and in a particular way, community-based interventions. Dr. Solis is working actively in international collaborative initiatives, leading research and training projects with the One Health approach. So now we'll start to see the video from Dr. Solis.
Hello to everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to share our work implementing the One Health approach, as well as some challenges and lessons learned with this approach. In this session, we will briefly address what the One Health approach implies, as well as the objectives of the OH Target project, some core competence for working with this approach, and finally, our experience in specific projects developing in Latin America and the challenges and lessons learned along the way. So to start, what does the One Health approach mean? Perhaps many of you are already familiar with this scheme, recognizing the close relationship between animals, environmental, and human health. But this could probably be some obvious and intuitive. In some countries and some cultures, this interdependence and balance between animals, people, and the Mother Earth, the environmental, has been very strongly recognized for a long time. However, the formalization and recognition of this approach, with the participation and commitment of several international organizations, has strengthened this approach. Reviewing some milestones of this process, we can mention in the 40s, the interdisciplinary initiatives articulating animals and human health. It becomes the CDC's, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States, which currently plays a crucial role in disease outbreaks. In 2004, the One World, One Health Declaration was established, which provided critical guidelines for a more integrative approach for zoonotic diseases. After the Tripartite Alliance was consolidated in 2008, and in 2022, the Environmental Program joined this alliance. This gave a more significant push to this more integrative vision, also establishing priorities for funding different initiatives that include this approach. It is also important to recognize that some other approaches have been developed due to the need to address health problems comprehensively, such as eco-health, global health, and planetary health. Taking in account all of this, in 2020, an effort was made to define the One Health approach as an integrative and unifying approach that recognizes the interdependence of people, animals, and ecosystems. But also, it emphasized the need to mobilize different sectors and disciplines, but also mobilize the society at different levels, including decision makers, stakeholders, and communities, with an equity perspective, in order to develop critical actions of communication, coordination, collaboration, and capacity building. In this way, we can achieve well-being and health of ecosystems, humans, and animals. With this vision, the Center for International Health at Ludwig-Maximilian University in Germany, together with the network of partners with whom we have been working since 2009, applied for German funding with the OH Target project, One Health Training and Research Global Network, with the aim to understand and improve health conditions and develop context-specific interventions that try to be sustainable with a strong focus on research and education, which is one of the network strengths. In this picture, you can see the network's partners and collaborating university. In Latin America, we have partners in Brazil, Bolivia, Colombia, Guatemala, and Chile. And also we have partners in Africa and Asia, in Ethiopia, Ghana, Mozambique, Tanzania, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. There are also other organizations and institutions that are collaborating with these initiatives. In this way, the DOHaD 13th project forced us to move and broaden our vision beyond human health complexities. It means integrating the challenge and perspective from animal and environmental health and the different components and also methods and other issues for animal and human and environmental health. But to work with these complexities, we need to develop some core competence that were already described as necessary to work with the One Health approach. Between these core competence, we can mention some of them. For example, systemic thinking. It means looking not only at the components individually, but also holistically. That is, considering the elements that compose it, the interconnection between these elements, but also the functions they perform. Each has its own particular challenges. The second core competence that we can mention is related with the collaborative work and the need to move towards multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary work. We can use the comparison of fruits and disciplines that Nisani made. One Health puts us to work not only with different types of apples and fruits, but also making a fruit salad, or even better, a smoothie, where the knowledge and the experience of the different disciplines can be better integrated. It is also important to think globally by developing local actions. At the global level, we share many challenges, such as rapid urbanization and deforestation, the aging, the effects of climate change, globalization, among others. Nowadays, it is impossible to think that global problems will not affect us. It implies being aware of the impact of our actions with a vision for the future, but implementing actions according to the needs and characteristics of each context. The participatory component, it is also essential, promoting horizontal and inclusive dialogue. There are issues that need to be addressed more urgently with this approach, which are very well described by this umbrella, such as zoonotic diseases, food safety, antimicrobial resistance, among others. But this approach invites us to take a comprehensive look, to put the One Health lenses on the different topics that we are addressing. And considering this, since 2020, the DOHaD 13th has implemented different projects to deepen this approach. Here is a list of the projects in which we have been working with partners in Latin America. Given the pandemic contingency, the first projects were focused more on COVID issues and online teaching. After, the ECO project addressed solid waste management, and ECO Water project was focused on risk of drought, rainwater harvesting systems, and food safety in Bolivia and in Guatemala. After, the AntibioRes project analyzed the presence of antibiotics in food in 4 countries, Bolivia, Italy, Ghana, and Nepal. But this project also included a component of human resources training to strengthen this line of work in each country in order to make the project sustainable to address and analyze the antibiotics in the future. But I wanted to stay a little more on the latest project, the SBs and CAP wildlife projects. First, the SBIS project, it addresses the productive chain of meliponiculture of stingless bees in Bolivia and in Guatemala. This activity is little developed and valued and required further investigation to promote sustainable management of this activity. Therefore, the objective of this project was to optimize the sustainable development of this activity, documenting its traditional use and promoting good practices and proper marketing strategies. In this project, we worked with professionals from various and different disciplines, including public health, history, biologists, and economists. And we also worked with the small producers and other public and private organizations. As a result of the project, we can mention that we strengthened the knowledge and good practices about these bees in the producers and also in the general population. But also we understood more about the behavior of these bees, how to care for them, and their impact on the environment and also on health in animals and in humans. Another project is the CAP Wildlife Project. It is related with the knowledge, attitude, and practices towards zoonotic diseases, trade, and consumption of wildlife in 4 Latin American countries: Chile, Bolivia, Guatemala, and Brazil. We worked on 5 work packages. First, we used in the first part mixed methods, qualitative and quantitative approach in order to understand the current situation. Then we discussed the result of these stages with the communities and stakeholders and other key actors. And jointly, we decided how to intervene, promoting behavioral change and coexistence between animals, people, and the environment. Now we are currently developing the last part of the intervention. Many of them were focused on education, and we developed materials adapted to the communities so that people make these resources their own. For example, in the center of this image, you can see that in Bolivia, people wanted to include, for example, the traditional customs and the local animals so they can identify with these materials. Also in Brazil, they developed some games, including local animals and adapted to school children. That was the target group in this project. It is true that we also face several challenges in our project. It is not easy to coordinate with different disciplines and countries. It implies making a real effort to understand and value each contribution. It is also necessary to consider that the times and priorities of the community and actors are not the same as those of the academy. Therefore, it is required to develop some communicating and negotiation skills. With the projects, we also strengthen the work with communities with the participatory component. It taught us to respect the community's needs, rights, history, context, and also the work dynamics. We also value education as a driving force for change that can effectively reach communities. And importantly, we value the openness and learning of the work team and the courage to face this challenge. Thank you very much.
Very well, great presentations. Now I would like to invite here Erika Chavira Soares, our secretary in Latin American DOHaD Society, the regional society, and also the treasurer in the executive committee in the organizing committee for the next World Congress in DOHaD, to conduct the question and answers. And also, I'd like to invite Dr. Evangelina and Dr. Maria Teresa Solis Soto to be with us answering the questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. They are very, very inspiring.
Thank you very much, Chris, to make me the introduction. Also, I'm very excited to have both doctors, Evangelina and Dr. Maria Teresa. You have a beautiful works in different levels, no, of DOHaD, and of course in One Health. I think that we get a lot of questions, no? We are very curious about these different kind of results that you have. So I'm going to start the questions from the audience in YouTube. Yes. Well, here is Graciela Scalianti, that she said, thank you, Dr. Evangelina, for your nice presentation. I would like to know if there is a change in permeability of the placental barrier when the father is diabetic.
Well, thank you, Graciela, for your question. And we still didn't study the permeability of the placental. However, as we can see for our first studies, is that maternal glycemia is not altered. So it is not our first worries. We are not worried about the transmission of glucose from the mother to the fetus, because these mothers are not diabetic. But I think that it is important to study what more else could be happening with the mother. But we don't know it yet.
Okay. And also, she's asking if glucose transport could also be altered as observed for lipid levels.
Yes, and this is quite the same because we didn't study the glucose transport in the placenta, and maybe we can study them on maybe in the liver, where we observe this increase in triglycerides, and we think that this increase in lipid levels in the liver could be related to the increase in triglycerides in the plasma of the fetuses. But we still have a long road to go.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers.
You're
Here
welcome.
is a comment for Dr. Gloria Barbosa that she says, congratulations to the speakers and all DOHaD Latin America team. Thank you very much, Gloria. Well, I have a question for Dr. Maria Teresa. Wonderful work. I like it very much. And I'm curious if there are any institutional programs in Latin America that focus on education for children and adolescents with the aim of education our populations in these concepts, One Health and DOHaD. If you know if there are some programs or something that we can contact or to know how can we introduce to this,
Yeah,
to
I
this
think
knowledge to our children.
yeah. In our research, we saw that there is a little information about, for example, in schools about zoonotic diseases or animals, even if they live in a protected area where they are in close contact with the wild animals. But we also, in the 4 countries, we see that most of the institutions work as really isolated. For example, human health people work only worry about human health. the animals program and the environmental programs work even each of them in their own area, in their own space. So I think, for example, contents and programs that try to make a change or awareness about the environmental and animals are not reaching the target population because they are not talking the institutions. So health is not talking with the education and other institutions. So I think in that space, we need a lot of work to do and try to articulate these spaces. But I think now is better than before. I think now the people is putting more effort about that. So I think we are improving on that. But a program established, at least in our countries, we didn't identify. Only some strategies really isolated, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. And I also like very much your bees program. I think that bees are the beautiful insects that have a lot of knowledge that we are also still this elucidating in DOHaD. So we here in Mexico we have a researcher that works with bees and epigenetics. So I think that in this umbrella that you showed before, I think that it also we connect all our experience, knowledges, and we can do a great job. No?
Yes, I was thinking in nutrition about this honey and the products of bees. I think in DOHaD there is a lot of work that can be done with this issue.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Maria Teresa. And last question, if I can do it, is from Dr. Elena Zambrano. It says, I didn't know before about the DOHaD concept. In fact, I thought it was like a mistake, in the redactation. But who implemented this concept in the community? Can you find scientific publications with this term or topic?
Yes, you can find a lot of works regarding DOHaD, and this is a relatively new concept, and this is why it's a paradigm, because we are we know we have studied too much about the DOHaD, but if Elena wants, I can send some papers that I like it to read. But she can find the term DOHaD in the web, in PubMed, for example.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Evangelina and Maria Teresa, to give us your knowledge and time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I just want to extend also the same Erica just said, and to Dr. Evangelina and Dr. Maria for being with us and to give us those two great presentations. And I guess all of you in the audience could have a very good sight of what kind of discussions we're going to have in our Congress. So we have a lot of interests in common in between DOHaD and One Health. And I'm sure that having researchers from both fields, we're gonna give us a great experience and a great opportunity to interact, to build up new connections, new collaborations, and of course, extend the research around the world on these two fields for everyone. That's great. So now, continuing with our online session, I'd like to introduce to you our new brand website for the DOHaD 2025 World Congress. I'm gonna share my screen right now so you can see it. Just a minute. Sorry. Can you see here? Yes. So you have here a first site of our website with the countdown toward the next Congress. So we are 345 days away for our Congress. So we have a pretty good time to prepare ourselves, our students, our colleagues to be in the beautiful Buenos Aires. It's important to mention that here you can find a very kind welcome message from us, the co-presidents of the Congress, as well as from Dr. Lucila Poston, the president of DOHaD International Society. Here you can learn a little bit more about how our Congress logo was developed and the meaning it has. And we want now and here acknowledge the great contribution of Gina Haberfield and Felipe Serrano, who were the developers of this beautiful logo we have for the Congress. We have here information about our organizing committee. Just wait the screen to be charted, so you have a lot of information here. And for now, concerning or regarding our scientific program, we're gonna have a whole view of the main topics that are gonna be discussed during the Congress. So here you have a short description of all of those comments, of those topics, I'm sorry, where you can learn a little bit more about the matters we're going to discuss during our Congress, if you can see here. And importantly, you can find here the rules to present short courses, conferences, and symposia proposals. So the period to propose short courses, symposia, and conference for the Congress, it's from now on open. You can send your proposals according to the rules you can see here to the email scientific program at DOHaD2025.com.ar. This call is open through November 4th this year. So please, we ask to all of you in the world DOHaD community, in Australia, in Japan, in Europe, in the US, in Latin America. So please send us your proposal. Let's build up the program, the scientific program for this Congress together. It's very important to say that this is a World Congress, and we'd like to make the better program we can to attend the expectation of all of you. So sending us your proposal, giving us your suggestions on very important hot topics that must be discussed in our Congress is a very, very, very important point for us. So please join us and send us your ideas and suggestions and proposals for our scientific program. In the next couple of weeks, you're gonna have here also, because it's important to say, this website is still under construction, so you're gonna improve the website along the next couple of weeks and months, but you're gonna have in the next couple of weeks information here about the registration, about abstract submissions, okay, and also about our sponsors. Important, you already have here travel main information, so you can have here a whole view of the beautiful Buenos Aires with beautiful peaks. You can have information about air connectivity through plan. You have information about the agreement I mentioned in the beginning with SkyTeam to give you a pretty good discount to buy your flight tickets to come to Buenos Aires, okay? And also another general information that we're gonna make available, like the venue, the address where the Congress will be held. So in this moment, I'd like to considered open the countdown for our 13th DOHaD World Congress 2025 in Buenos Aires. I'd like to appreciate all the help and effort for our team and from the DOHaD International Society team as well, who have worked together with us to build up all these exciting presentation program and expectation to you. To say that this video we're gonna be available in the DOHaD International Society YouTube channel, as well as in the La DOHaD YouTube channel as well. So if you know of somebody who couldn't come this afternoon with us and is interested in the topics we discussed here, that please give them the tip to enter the channel, to access our website. And please, if you have any doubt, if you have any suggestion, write down some lines to us, write down to info@DOHaD2025.com.ar. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Say a nice weekend, everyone, and we see. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.